In June 2026, a 46-year-old man walked into a stadium in Italy's third division and signed a professional contract, 11 years after his last competitive match. His name was Ronaldinho. Somewhere else, at the exact same moment, a 53-year-old man with 3 European Cups on his managerial resume was quietly finalizing a deal to take charge of the France national team, a job he'd been circling for 5 years, ever since he walked away from Real Madrid. His name was Zinedine Zidane, two of the greatest players football has ever produced. Two completely different second acts, and they're not alone. Across the sport right now, the men who once filled stadiums with pure disbelief are living lives most fans never see. Some are chasing one final act on the pitch. Some are circling the biggest jobs in the game and still waiting. Some have already found the thing that replaced football entirely. This is where they actually are. Start with Ronaldinho, because his story sounds like a joke until you check the date. He hadn't played a professional match since 2015. A decade of exhibition games, brand appearances, the kind of retirement every legend eventually settles into. Then, in June 2026, Serie C club Ravenna announced they'd signed him. Not as an ambassador, not for a photo op, a real contract. The club's own leadership couldn't even agree on what it meant. One executive insisted he'd never actually play a match, then walked it back days later and said it wasn't ruled out. Ronaldinho himself said he expected to play a few minutes in an official game, just to see how it felt. Here's what makes it land harder than nostalgia. This is a man who once made Real Madrid's own fans stand up and applaud him inside the Santiago Bernabeu, wearing the wrong shirt entirely. A man who won the World Cup, the Champions League, and the Ballon d'Or, and did most of it looking like he was enjoying a joke nobody else was in on. Now he's back in a locker room in Italy's third tier, at an age when most players have been retired for a decade, chasing a feeling instead of a trophy. Whether he actually steps onto the pitch or not, the message is the same. Some legends don't walk away. They just wait for the door to open again. Now go to the opposite end of the spectrum. Zinedine Zidane never needed to prove anything else on a football pitch. 2 spells managing Real Madrid, 3 consecutive Champions League titles between 2016 and 2018, a feat no manager had ever pulled off before, and none has repeated since. When he left Madrid in 2021, most people assumed he'd be back in a dugout within a year. He wasn't. He turned down club after club, including reported interest from one of the biggest names in the Premier League. Because Zidane only wanted one job left in football, and it wasn't a club at all. France. The national team he played for at 2 World Cups, the team he captained to glory as a player in 1998. For years the timing never worked. Didier Deschamps kept winning, and Zidane kept waiting. Then, in 2026, with Deschamps confirmed to step aside after this summer's tournament, the pieces finally fell into place. A verbal agreement was reached months before the World Cup even kicked off. Zidane is set to become the manager of France once the trophy is handed out. Not a comeback, a homecoming 5 years in the making. But not every legend gets the ending they're chasing. Take Xavi Hernandez, a man many consider the greatest passer of his generation, the metronome at the center of Barcelona's most dominant years. He left the Barcelona bench in 2024, and here's the part that surprises people: he's been out of work ever since. Linked to Chelsea, linked to Manchester United, linked, at different points, to Morocco's national team ahead of this very World Cup. Every single time, the deal fell apart before it was signed. Xavi has said publicly he's holding out for the right project, not just any job. Which raises the question this documentary keeps circling back to: when you've already won everything as a player, how much are you willing to wait for the right chapter as a coach? That question sits differently depending on who you ask. Because while Xavi waits, and Zidane prepares to finally get the role he wanted all along, other legends chose a completely different exit from the game entirely. David Beckham never went back to a touchline. When he retired in 2013, he didn't chase a coaching badge or a pundit's chair, he built something instead. Beckham Co. founded Inter Miami in Major League Soccer, and rather than manage players, he became the man signing them, bringing Lionel Messi to Florida in one of the most consequential transfers in American soccer history. Beckham's second act isn't about proving he still understands the game tactically. It's about proving he understands the business of football better than almost anyone who ever played it. No dugout, no whistle, just an ownership stake in the sport's future on a continent that's still learning to love it. Which brings us to the pattern hiding underneath all four of these stories. It's tempting to think retirement is one single road you play, you stop, you fade into interviews and testimonials. But that's not what's actually happening. Ronaldinho is chasing the feeling one more time, at an age when it shouldn't even be possible. Zidane spent 5 patient years engineering the exact job he wanted, and got it. Xavi is still out there, still waiting, still unproven as a manager despite everything he proved as a player. And Beckham simply walked through a different door altogether, choosing ownership over a comeback. 4 men, 4 completely different definitions of what comes after greatness. None of them wrong. So 4 men, 4 different roads away from the game. Ronaldinho chasing the feeling one more time. Zidane finally getting the job he waited 5 years for. Xavi still knocking on doors that won't open. Beckham, who never looked back at all. Which one of these would you actually want if you were the one hanging up the boots?